So we've got our oil cooler installed and our cooling system flushed out on this 2006 we've been working on. The way I do it, it makes a real mess, especially if it's been going on for any amount of time in the cooling system. So the way I do it, the very first thing that I do is I drain the coolant out of it, and I'll pull the lower radiator hose and let it hang, and then pull the plugs out of the block and leave them out while I'm doing the rest of the, removing the cooler and cleaning everything up, and I'll let it sit. Usually, if I don't get started on it early enough, it's going to sit overnight, so I'll leave that open overnight. And then once I get it back together, I'll, hook everything back up or change, like in this case, I changed some hoses on it because they were soft from the oil. And you can use, I mentioned it before, Cascade dishwashing detergent works really well on the cooling system, but I have some spray wash detergent for a wash cabinet, and it works really good. And I'll mix up a bucket of it, about 4.5 gallons, and I use a cup of that in there, and it does a really nice job on the cooling system, cleans it out. I'll put that in there, fill it up with that, run it, bring it up to temperature, let it run for 20 minutes or so, and then drain all of that detergent out of there, and then actually go in and pull the plugs again and flush everything out with clear water. And that usually does the trick. You want to flush the radiator out, pull the upper hose off and leave the lower hose off and flush it out really good. Make sure you get all the oil out of it. And the bottle, the degas bottle, sometimes you need to replace it. It's really hard to get the oil out of there. This is a fairly new bottle on this truck, so I filled it up with detergent and I let it soak overnight, and then washed it out, and it all came out of there. So, but sometimes they get so much oil in them, and they're old and probably has cracks in it anyway, so you just want to replace it. So anyway, that's done. The other issue that these have is they'll crack the cylinder head, and they'll actually get fuel in the cooling system, and that's kind of the same as far as mess goes. It's kind of the same scenario. It's going to ruin all your rubber because they weren't designed to run with fuel in them, and it makes kind of a mess in the cooling system. So if you go on Google, you're going to hear, oh, it's an injector cup. Well, this isn't a 7.3, it's a 6.0, and it's not an injector cup. So this is the injector cup for a 6.0, and it's pretty stout, made out of stainless steel, and it fits on the injector right here, and it's bottomed out right now. Well, it isn't anywhere near fuel. The fuel comes in right through here, and it's not near the injector cup. As long as this is tight in there, you're not going to get any fuel past this O-ring. These O-rings sometimes do erode on them because these ones run hot because they're lower in the head and they're closer to the fire. But and you'll get a little fuel that runs down, in the cup, but you're not mixing it with coolant. These cups are surrounded by coolant, but there's no way for the two to mix there. And I've never seen one of these cracked. As long as they're installed correctly, they're not going to leak. And if the injector is torqued properly, you can't get any leakage there. So, you have a copper washer on the bottom that seals it to the bottom of this. So what happens when you get fuel in your coolant, let's go over here, I'll show you. Got a cylinder head right here. So these cylinder heads, they've got a hole bored in them, and it goes all the way through the head, all the way to the other end. Fuel line hooks up on one end, the other end's going to be plugged, depending on which side of the engine it's on. And there's the fuel gallery right there. You can see it cut into the, when they drill that hole out. These aren't finished. They'll drill that hole, and then they'll machine this, and it cuts into the, into the fuel gallery. And you can see kind of see the white down there from the lower O-ring. Some of the white transfers on, and it's just above the injector cup. And then the other O-ring sits just above that hole there where the fuel comes in. And generally where they're going to crack, let me get a pointer. generally where you're going to see these crack. Jesus, not really prepared here. Okay, that looks better. There's where your fuel comes in right there. There's coolant, you know, flows around these heads. You're gonna get a crack somewhere in between where the O-rings sit. Usually I see them, there's a little bevel right here. You'll get a little hairline crack in here, and your fuel pressure is higher than your cooling system pressure. That's going to be 15, 16 pounds. Your fuel pressure is going to be 45, 55 pounds, and you're going to be pushing that fuel. Anytime the key's on and the engine's hot and that crack opens up, you're going to be pushing fuel right into the cooling system. So there's some BS kit I saw where you can, some kind of a sealer, but you know, if you want to rely on it, you're going to replace the head. I wouldn't ever even imagine doing that, but that's where they crack. That's where you get fuel in your cooling system. So other than that, this truck's ready to go. I have a International 4300 out there with a whatever the 6-liter is that they have in a VT 364, 365, whatever it is. It's got a misfire in it. That should be an easy one. I'm going to get that in here tomorrow, and we'll fix that. So thanks for watching.